Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, The Mighty Bjorn, and today for you, I have a Armored Warfare replay. This is PvE Hardcore Operation Hydra, and I am featuring myself in the Tier 5 Premium, the Type 74. The Type 74 hails from the land of Godzilla and anime. Anime. That's right, folks. It hails from Japan. And I'm going to talk a bit about the development history of the Type 74. Service history-wise, there's not a whole lot. It only really served with Japan, and it really saw no combat action, which might be fortunate for Japan, considering the other vehicles that were coming out at the time of this. But let's dive on in here and talk a bit about the vehicle. The design of the Type 74 originated with the STB-1. The STB-1 prototype was delivered in late 1968 to the JGSDF. During the trials, the autoloader was deemed too complicated to operate. The autoloader was also noted for being difficult to maintain and unreliable. The tank itself had a remote AA turret. It was more or less a 50 caliber and like a remote turret mount, and it would be deemed to remove that. The turret was also elongated for a loader. They decided to remove the autoloader from the tank itself. A new prototype was delivered in 1971, and it was designated as STB-3. Further modifications was ordered after the trials on the STB-3 was completed, and the final prototype was designated STB-6 and delivered in 1973. After more trials on the vehicle would be approved. However, production of the new tank would not begin until 1975, so there'd be almost a two-year gap between the vehicle actually being approved for service and actual production, which would involve further modifications because of essentially the lag time, if you will. By January 1980, a total of 225 Type 74s were delivered for service, and the tank would also see a series of modifications over its service. Oddly, though, the Type 74 was deemed as obsolete with the reveal of the T-72 in Russia. So that's kind of where the vehicle stands is, yeah, hey, we designed this great vehicle, and by the time it went into production, it was actually already deemed as obsolete because of the T-72. The hull was of an all-welded steel design, while the turret was cast. It was armed with a Royal Ordnance L7 105mm rifled gun that was produced in China, even though it is a, sorry, not China, Japan, even though it is a British gun. The Type 74 also has a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun, and the vehicle uses an M2 HB 50 caliber machine gun and a pintle mount for air defense. It has no other defensive machine guns. Due to the rough terrain of Japan, it was deemed necessary to have a hydropneumatic suspension, and the tank was powered by a Mitsubishi 10ZF Model 21 10-cylinder 2-stroke diesel engine that produces 750 horsepower, giving the vehicle itself an overall power-to-weight ratio of 19 horsepower per ton. Now, I want to put some things into perspective here about the engine. The engine kind of throws me off because, one, it's a 10-cylinder engine. America at the time, and so was Germany, was actually building more powerful engines themselves, but they were 8-cylinder engines. So you might get something like a 750 horsepower 8-cylinder diesel for an American tank, where you got a 750 horsepower 10-cylinder diesel. Kind of throws me off a little bit. That being said, though, okay, The tank is actually pretty lightweight for a main battle tank. So it's actually got a good, decent power to weight ratio. It's kind of one of those things. 19 horsepower or 750 horsepower really doesn't sound like a lot, considering just a few years later, Germany would introduce the Leopard 2, which would have a 1500 horsepower engine. And literally 5 years later, America would introduce the 1500 horsepower turbine engine, as well as, by this point, Russia also had some more powerful engines themselves in the realm of both turbine and diesel. But considering the vehicle's lightweight, it kept it actually fairly nimble. A total of 893 Type 74s were produced over its lifespan. As of 2006, there are still 700 Type 74s in service, but they were beginning to be replaced by the Type 10. So this is a tank that's kind of was reaching its life limits. Now, I'll talk about it really quick in Armored Warfare, and honestly, there's not really much to say. It is a Tier 5 premium. It does have the hydropneumatic suspension. It's, for some odd reason, has a 2-shot ready rack system, so you can kind of go in there and do the double tap thing. All that being said, the tank is not amazing. The armor is practically paper. I would consider it more like a Tier 5 Leopard with a hydropneumatic suspension, to be honest. Not an amazing tank. It definitely doesn't replace anything I regularly play at Tier 5, but it's not utter trash either. That being said, I would do 10,263 damage, spot 6 enemy vehicles, destroy 6 enemy vehicles, and I would actually be number 3 for damage overall in this replay, folks, even though I'd be number 2 for experience because of the amount of spotting I did, which I was number 2 for spotting. So it kind of kept me up there in the food chain of standings. So there you go, folks. Hailing from Japan, the land of Godzilla and anime, the Type 74. Anyway, folks, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.